the movement to the cloud has dramatically picked up to the point where adoption of some of this cloud software is soon going to run into capacity issues. Capacity from the standpoint of the number of folks that can do good migrations of on-premise folks, while at the same time bringing new customers on board. And on the, some of those AI components, a lot of initial excitement, and some of that maybe plateaued a little bit, and based on real world uses of some of these AI components, in the world that I surf in.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we're excited to have our guest, Mr. Peter Joeckel from Handsfree. And we'll be diving into his story a little bit today, as well as what his company does, and then some engaging insights into the technology industry. So, make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Peter, welcome to the Grow IT podcast.
Trey, nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Peter, if you don't mind, if you could please just quickly introduce yourself and maybe just tell a couple of snippets of your story, if you don't mind, please.
Sure. So I went to engineering school and did the industrial engineering operations research degree, which for those of you who may not be fans of engineering in particular, those are the guys that try to make things faster, better, cheaper. And they have the pocket protectors and the slide rules. So the interesting thing, about industrial engineering, again, it's that time and motion study. How do you make things faster, better? And from there, I went to work at Price Waterhouse and went right into the ERP space. At Price Waterhouse, implementing at that time mainframe systems, and then went from there into the mid-market, to where I am today with Microsoft. But the interesting thing about that is that ERP software, every version and release of it is more complex, is harder to install, it's harder to maintain, it's more expensive. So it's a complete opposite of where that whole engineering discipline went. And so it was a bit of cognitive dissonance for a long time. And so, being in the classic consulting partner role, selecting, implementing, and then finally fixing ERP projects, I finally ended up where I am today with Handsfree, where our thought process there is what types of processes and tools are available in the market that actually make ERP projects faster, more efficient, and have a higher probability of success. So that's kind of that Reader's Digest version of my background.
Excellent. Tell me, Peter, based on your experience, what would you say is the current market trends that you are aware of, obviously in our space? What way is the wind's blowing? What have you been noticing lately?
So obviously focused 100% in the ERP space.
Yeah.
For the short past, everything has been, how do we move everybody to the cloud off of older, what they call on-premise or, private cloud types of implementations. So the big push there for, many years, several years now, has been trying to take all of the install bases and move them into, some kind of a cloud. And then the biggest thing, obviously, for the last two cycles, and I consider cycles the major summit meetings every year, where everybody gets together and hears the message of the year. So for those last two cycles, it's really all been AI focused. And so initially you had that, let's move everybody to the cloud, and then AI. And the major overriding message around the AI has been, if you want to take advantage of AI, you need to be in the cloud. And if you want to have good AI, you have to have good data, and that data has to be in the cloud, and that data has to be clean. So kind of that, where everything is going is what I call gym memberships, and
Gym memberships.
100%. Think about, getting that gym membership and then going twice, but
Yeah,
then,
I know all about that, man.
but then never canceling it.
Yeah.
And so you get that similar scenario with all these different components that you can buy that are cloud-based, but are recurring revenue license models. And that's where all these that's where all these companies get their valuations, right?
Yeah.
They're there's centers where they're running everybody's cloud businesses.
Mm.
I meant to say data centers. I'm too nervous to be on here to speak coherently.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Tell me, Peter, but I need to say that your gym membership is a really good analogy. The regarding the market, right? What would you say if we should take 2024, for example? What would you say is the the market sentiment like? What to you? What has that been like this year?
So the movement to the cloud has dramatically picked up to the point where adoption of some of this cloud software is soon going to run into capacity issues. Capacity from the standpoint of the number of folks that can do good migrations of on-premise folks, while at the same time bringing new customers on board. And on the, some of those AI components, a lot of initial excitement, and some of that maybe plateaued a little bit.
Mm.
And based on, real world uses of some of these AI components, in the world that I surf in,
Yeah.
versus, the actual capabilities. And some of that stuff is starting to be recast. So it's kind of that early hype reality, and now how do we reconfigure, how do we fix this stuff to get people to buy those licenses.
To buy those licenses.
Mhm.
Peter, tell me if you don't mind, just to I think let's maybe get a bit deeper into what it is that what your company does. I think our listeners would like to get a good grasp on the business.
Yeah, so somewhere around 10 years ago, I stood up on a stage at one of these user group meetings, and my presentation threw out the thought that I thought I was going to get booed off stage, that
Yeah.
based on three simple criteria for ERP projects, the fancy name for accounting software, right? ERP.
Yeah.
Um, for three simple criteria for these projects, implementation projects, on time, on budget, and on spec, meaning we've delivered the specifications that were developed in the sales process. Based on those three simple criteria for a successful project, there has never been a successful ERP project. That was my thesis. Um, Instead of getting booed off the stage, all I saw was nodding heads, and then it led to a lengthy discussion as to why that's the case. Now, that problem of not on time, not on budget, not delivering all these, promises,
Yeah.
that hasn't gotten any better over time.
Mm.
As a
Mm.
matter of fact, it just keeps getting worse. And it's interesting, some of the dynamics behind cloud-based ERP software offerings. There are some forces behind the scenes that people would normally not expect,
Yeah.
that actually lead to those projects having more of a challenge. And we can get that into that if you'd like to. But my basic focus has been, okay, if you go out right now and Google how to successfully implement ERP, you
Yep.
get an unlimited number of lists, top 10, top seven. I don't know why there are top sevens, but whatever, of
Steps and
suggestions, tips and
suggestions
tricks.
and Yeah.
on how to do this stuff, how to do this stuff well.
It's like those self-help books.
100%. And at the same time, if you Google ERP failures, I know there are at least $2 billion ERP failures, but the industry is rife with outright failures, right?
Yeah.
And so as you start looking at, number one, the advice, it's all very generic to me. It's not stuff that you can take home and implement. So when I Google that advice and it comes back and says, build a great implementation team, communicate with stakeholders. I
Mm.
think to myself, well, now I've got it figured out. There's the problem, right? In
Yeah.
reality, all of that advice is very, very generic, nothing that you can take home and use. So my focus has been, how do you give somebody a practical piece of advice that they can take back to the office and actually implement it so that it has, some level of impact on their ERP project? So actual tips and tricks and advice. What about processes? What are some things that you can do that improve the chance that these projects succeed? And the most exciting thing that we've been working with for the last 2+ years is a cloud-based tool that that allows us to capture requirements faster and more efficiently. Because
All right.
every single project, every single ERP project, especially one of any level of sophistication, has to
Mm.
start with a detailed understanding of what does your business actually need to be successful with this new software.
These-
And so that process over time, there are some, kind of classical ways that those projects are done. They can be very time consuming. They can be very expensive, and yet they deliver bad results. So the thing that I've been very pleased with is this platform that we're using that literally cuts 80 to 90% of the time for gathering requirements
That's good.
and taking those requirements and automatically doing two really important things. How do those requirements match against existing software in the Microsoft world? Because a lot of folks that are in the Microsoft world, and that's my area of specialization,
Yeah.
there are two primary cloud products, and there's a lot of marketing, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt about, oh, you need to have this product. No, you have to have this product. And
Mm.
it's all based on people's bias, right? Which product do they implement? Which product do they know? Where are they making their money?
Yes.
And so there's a lot of discussion on, well, should I be here or should I be there? And interestingly enough, it's as important not to overbuy as it is to underbuy. Because you can literally buy too much software
Too
because
much
somebody's
software. Yeah.
yeah.
Tell me, and then the talking about Microsoft now, if you don't mind, just to maybe provide some insight regarding, Microsoft AI Copilot. Just
Ah,
yeah, if you don't mind, just to elaborate a bit.
yeah. So I've sat in on a ton of presentations on Copilot,
Yeah.
and here's my take on it today: is um, the implementation today is probably most useful in what I consider the sales and marketing world,
Yeah.
because, for example, I can effectively use Copilot every day in the following scenario. And I'm doing a bit of a generalization here, right? But to make it accessible.
Yeah.
I just wrote an email. And what I'd like to do is there any way I can punch this up or spruce it up, right? Is there anything additional that you could take a look at that? Copilot will take a look at that and shorten it, lengthen it, whatever it is, that it is that you're trying to do. And then you turn around and say, okay, if I send this email out, can you recommend 10 great subject lines, right? Now, here's the important thing is it'll do those two things, but I have to go in, and if it makes any changes to anything I've written, I have to go and make sure, I have to make very, very sure that the tone or the meaning of what I've written hasn't been changed.
That's an interesting point.
You absolutely positively have to go in there and say, hey, wait a minute, this is the problem. That's not what I meant, right?
Yes, yes.
The second thing is then here's 10 subject lines. That would be great subject lines to send out this email. You scan those 10 subject lines, and 8 of them are worthless. 2 of them are kind of cool,
Mm.
and that one you really like. And if you even add your own little spin to it, it's exactly what it is you're looking for. Now, let me extrapolate that thought though. As you start thinking about taking that type of capability and switching it into something like forecasting demand.
Yes.
Now, what you have is you've got 2 issues there. Number one, you have to be forecasting demand based on known good data.
All right.
Are you looking at data inside your ERP system or in some spreadsheets that you created that is good data,
All
right?
right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how do you know that? Okay. Now now we get into a sophisticated use and say, okay, I would like to use XYZ data, and I'd like to create a forecast for some period of time. And can you tell me the optimal forecasting methodology? Because there's different ways of forecasting, from a mathematical standpoint. Can you tell me the optimal forecasting that's going to give me the best results based on historical data? Now, let's let's take a look at those 2 scenarios we just talked about. How many people can look at 10 subject lines and decide which 2 are good subject lines because they capture somebody's attention versus, oh yeah, these are just awful?
Standard ors. Yeah.
How many people have the ability to look at different forecasting models and determine that what the AI told you was the best is actually the best?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
So at that point, and I thought about that immediately, and I thought to myself, well, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And so I said,
Very
well,
interesting.
yeah. So I posed the question. I said, so how do I know that's correct?
Mm.
And the answer was, well, we'd ask AI. And I thought to myself, um, okay, evidently the idea of recursive logic hasn't occurred to you, but okay, that's a great answer. Now, interestingly enough, there's a combination of what I think is actually very good use of AI in the ERP space, and
Yeah.
it combines an actual very good use with with one of um, 2 good ERP jokes that I've learned over 30 years. So I have to ask you, do you know what ERP stands for?
Uh, electronic reporting program.
So it's enterprise resource planning, right? Is the classic response,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what ERP stands for. But the punchline here, and it's not without merit, is that Excel runs production,
Yeah.
because so many of these big packages are implemented and they don't run without Excel subsystems. So the program is either not doing what you need it to do, you haven't been trained to use it correctly, right?
Mm. Mm.
Or it's just the wrong software. And so now what we're doing is we're taking massive amounts of data and bringing it to Excel to be able to do stuff that we're not accomplishing in the ERP system. Now, um, a lot of this AI capability is very, very strong in developing advanced use of Excel spreadsheets.
Okay.
So a lot of that ability so AI is very good for coding.
Mm.
And so it's really good inside of spreadsheets for being able to do some advanced spreadsheet stuff, because most people, they know that 10% of the functionality, and God knows how do you do this? How do you do this other, 90%?
Yeah, I'm one of the 10%ers, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
VLOOKUP? Are you kidding me? Right? So, so actually, if your business does depend a lot on some sophisticated Excel spreadsheet models, a lot of those are, some of those advanced functions inside of spreadsheets or macros. They're actually, those capabilities are enhanced pretty strongly by using some AI tools. So ironically, um, you don't want to be in Excel for your ERP, but if you are doing things in there, it's a great help in that area.
Excellent. The if I may ask you, you've got a lot of experience on growing business, obviously, and from in your opinion, what type of mindset would you say, Peter, is needed to be a successful founder of a business?
Oh, everybody and their brother will tell you why your business is going to fail.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Well said.
Everybody's going to tell you why the idea that you have is absolutely insane. And
Mm.
it may very well be. You have to be open to you have to be open to the opportunity that you actually don't have a good idea, right? And the key there is that a lot of us that are in business for a long time have a lot of great ideas that are not great ideas. The key is the ability to drown out all the noise, be able to go to sleep at night without panicking, because some people without a paycheck, it's absolute panic.
Yeah.
And when you absolutely fall on your face and it's a complete failure, can you dust yourself off and step back up and say, okay, I learned something. What did I learn? And how do I need to, modify that?
Mm.
So you got to have a really short memory and thick skin, and
That's well said.
you got to be absolutely fearless, because it can be terrifying without a paycheck.
Yeah. And then is there maybe a golden nugget or two that you would provide the listeners with of, maybe some things that you've learned in your career? Obviously, there's been some ups and some downs, but if there's maybe like one or two vital things that shifted things for you in the right direction. If you don't mind sharing one or two.
Yeah, the every day I have 100 good ideas.
Yeah.
Every day I have 100 new good ideas, and if you surround yourself with people that tell you, Pete, those are all brilliant, you're never going to be able, you're never going to be able to have that first cut of, yeah, here are these 100, but
Mm.
really 90 of those are crap. We need to throw those away immediately. And then let's look at those last 10. And maybe after we've, slept overnight, we come back and go, oh, okay, that was nonsense, right?
Mm.
So that ability to have somebody that can tell you, yeah, maybe not so much here, right? Different than people that are just telling you why everything's bad, why everything's going to fail, right? People that have the ability, that are on your team, on your side, that can tell you, without fear that, hey, have you thought about this? The other thing that I would go back and do over completely, if I was to begin again tomorrow,
Yeah.
is that I got into my own business over 30 years ago. Um, and the only reason that's good is that it's not 40 years. Um, more for freedom than to make money.
Mm.
At Price Waterhouse, I was probably the worst employee they ever had. Technically speaking, I could hold my own to do stuff, but I chafed under that corporate structure. So my deal was I had to get out and, be the smartest guy in the room, right?
Mm.
Running my own ship. So having done that and having done it for the freedom, I never watched the dollars because I always figured it was easy to make more money. But at some point, you're at the end of your career, and just making more money isn't as easy because you're running out of runway. So the things that I would have done differently is I would have taken some I would have taken some classes in accounting,
Yeah.
and while I was constantly investing in the business because the business is absolutely cash hungry and you can always put money into the business, I would have put more money aside for myself than I actually did. So, which is not to say that, any of this has been a disaster. It's been nothing but, a great ride, and it continues to be because
Mm.
this is this is how I have fun. People ask me, well, what's your hobby? Why aren't you playing golf? Well, because I like doing this better. So,
Excellent.
understanding where money comes and how money goes and putting more money aside because you can always put it into the business. And there's always that opportunity in the back of your mind to say, hey, I can always make more. So
That's
that
that's such good knowledge and information. I'm sure there's a couple of people here that say, okay, no, that's what I wanted for the day. Definitely. But that's such good advice. The especially profound, like you mentioned, to for a lot of the guys that's not financially so much literate, or how can I say, so much clued up with the finances or the business. I think that's good advice to go take that course, and see where are the basic things that one does not necessarily have in your arsenal to
yeah.
to run successfully. Tell me, Peter, where can the listeners get a hold of you?
Handsfree.biz.
Excellent.
Just handsfree.biz.
Excellent.
.com was taken. I have no idea why, but I can go back and figure it out. But I think biz works out just as well.
Most probably we're gonna get a comment in a section where one guy's gonna say, "Hey, that was me." So, Peter, I need to thank you for coming on today. Then, I can fully understand why your business is so growing exponentially, as well as the values that you shared with us today and some good insights. Thanks for the time and thanks for coming on.
Trig, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All the best. Take care.
Yep.